Well, anyway, so we were talking about the power of anecdote when it comes to essentially anything, and how we may not have a ton of information on a specific medication or peptide or product or bioregulator, but we have plenty of people coming forward or even displaying blood work saying I had an improvement, from this product, and we should always take that with a grain of salt and say, well, there may have been other factors at play. What else did you change about your lifestyle? But when you have enough people coming forward to say the same thing, you see a trend, that needs to be taken seriously to some degree.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I think even when somebody brings something up to me, like I come with it from the approach and I'll do it for the good and the bad, right? Like there's sometimes that people will say, I took D-Sip last night and I woke up with a headache. And the first question I ask is, have you ever woken up with a headache before? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's not the D-Sip that made you wake up with a headache. Try it again tomorrow. Find out if you have a headache again, then maybe it's the D-Sip, right? Or take a few day break. See if you wake up with a headache the next day. Try D-Sip again. If it gives you a headache, then maybe something like D-Sip is giving you a headache. But also you can look at it from the good too, right? Like we know generally that in people's experiences that something like Simex typically has same day effects, right? First day you take it. I mean, I had a buddy who took it and he's like, dude, I could clean my house. Like I felt like focused, and he was somebody who had really bad ADHD. And so there's situations where like you'll typically feel it same day and somebody will say like, is this a placebo? Or like, could I be feeling it this fact? It's like, yeah, you could be, but also like you could have just felt better that day, right? Like I took D-Sip last night, I woke up and I had a lot of energy. Well, it might not have been the D-Sip. Did you track it with a wearable? And you've seen that over the past 12 weeks, you've had poor sleep. You took D-Sip, your deep sleep improved. Even your REM sleep might improve some. And then try it again the next night. If you start to see a consistent pattern when you're using something and seeing benefits versus when you're not using it and not seeing it. And again, how do you know that BPC 157 made you heal faster from a surgery? You don't, because you don't have a point of reference. Like at any given time, anything could get better or go away or whatever could happen with it. But based off of like the mechanism of action of how something works, what we expect from it, what people typically experience, you can kind of tie two and two together, generally speaking.
yeah, to go off of the first part of what you just said too was people saying that they have poor outcome from a certain whatever product, and we get into like causation versus correlation with this,
Yeah.
and it just happened, to me. This is why it was kind of on my mind that I've got this tooth that I went and had a tooth cleaning, like a deep cleaning 3 months ago, and I put it off for a long time. So they had to do a lot of work, and my mouth was sensitive, has been sensitive for the last 3 months, but like a normal, like a tolerable amount
Right.
until the last 3 days. This one side of my mouth is, if cold hits it, like if fluid hits it, or if I eat like yogurt, something cold, it's like a shock of pain, 8, 9 out of 10. So
Right.
I go in to look at it, and it would be easy for somebody to say, well, it's because they screwed up my mouth when I did the teeth cleaning. Um, and she pointed out when I was there, which I already knew, I've been grinding my teeth for a long time, so I've kind of worn down the enamel in one spot, which is exposing the more sensitive part of the tooth underneath. And so when anything gets in there, it hurts. So this is a common situation where something just happens to unveil itself while something else is going on. And interestingly enough, my brain just went to this. Um, when it comes to, and I don't want to get into all the vaccine stuff, but when it comes to that, a lot of situations are correlation at the same time, not causation. So my kid was normal until I had X vaccine, and now they, well, how do we know that that's what it was, or if it was already going to be in this timeline of this person's life, and it just coincided or was similar in time to the thing that you
Right.
put into your body. So it's really hard to differentiate between the two.
Well, I think that's a lot of things too, because like we'll just use the vaccine as a point of reference for that, right? If you notice an increase in, or like it's, or even not even that you notice an increase. Let's just say that somebody got any vaccine and then you saw more people have this. And I think social media drives it a little bit, right? You have the ease of access to finding that information. It's so quick, it's so available that if somebody gets, we'll just say the flu shot, and next thing you know, 20 people have a stomach ache, but people said, I got the flu shot last week, I got a stomach ache the week after. I don't get the flu vaccine. So
Yeah.
I'm not giving my opinions on like vaccines in general, but I'm just tying the two together. You get the flu vaccine, you have a tummy ache the next week, and everybody says, well, this is what it was. But what happens is that you post a video on TikTok that says, I got a stomach ache after I got the flu shot. And somebody goes, me too, I got a stomach ache 3 days later. Well, you might have gotten it anyways, right? And actually, this is a really good point of reference for at least something that I've used and experienced is uh, Accutane.
Yeah.
So I took Accutane like my first year in college. And I remember back then they were always telling you like, hey, you got like you may have become the word that we probably can't say on any platform, right? Unalive
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah.
And that's something that people say is associated with it. And it's like, well, if you think about it, when people might already have self-image issues or something like that use it, right? And so you start taking it, it makes your acne 1.5 million times worse. My acne got so bad before it got better. And then it goes away and it's great, but like your joints hurt, everything. But could those all be tied together to cause it versus the actual compound itself? Because I personally didn't have any changes to my um, my mental state when using. I'm not denying that it happens, but when you think about like other factors that might play in on something, it could be more to the story, like what we're saying.
Yeah, we also have people that, when it comes to like anecdote and personal situations, you have people who are, we know them, everyone knows them. They're basically hypochondriacs, so they're terrified of anything to begin with, and when they put something in their body, they've already presumed they're going to have. They'll go to Google, they'll look up the side effects of the thing, they'll take the thing, and then they'll say that they have the side effects, right? So they've
Yeah.
like predetermined that they're going to have the side effects from the product, whether they actually do or not. They've created the environment to convince themselves they're having it. But you
Yeah.
also have the other end of the spectrum where you have people that think everything is great, right? So we got to take that into consideration that people oftentimes go, oh, that was the best thing I ever took, or that was the best weight loss. I've had people that still ask me um, if they'd be able to use phentermine, right, to lose weight. I don't like, we have so much better.
Yeah.
Why would you want to
Well,
use that?
I've actually had that happen too. Somebody tried, I think they tried either retatrutide or they tried tirzepatide, something, right? They tried one of the better ones and they said, it's not working for me. And I want to go back to like, I want to use liraglutide again. And I'm like, you what? And they're like, well, nothing's worked like that works so well for me. I'm like, okay, but at the same boat, and this is a hard concept to gather. So somebody asked my school yesterday for our live call, they said, um, what to expect like on your second and third cycle of like a GHRH, GHRP combo or one or the other. And I said, like, what are you going to get from it? You're going to get better. Your body's getting used to it. You're adapting to it. Like you're able to get more out of it because of that. And I was like, actually, the bad thing to tell you is that you're probably going to get less out of anything you use the next time you use it because most of your results, I mean, look at the GLP graphs, right? Like if you look at a graph for GLP weight loss, most of that happens over the first however many weeks, right? We'll just say 16, 20 weeks. And then it slows down and you continuously over the next, 50 weeks lose the other 10%, right? So in terms of a time to percentage ratio, all of it comes in the beginning. And so your
And
first cycle of tesamorelin and ipamorelin, your first cycle of testosterone, your first cycle of whatever is probably going to yield you the most gains. And you see that, right? And the example I gave is for Nick Walker to put on a pound of lean muscle in 6 to 12 months is impressive.
Yep.
For, a 19-year-old that's never touched the gym in their life to do it, that might happen in a month.
to play devil's advocate to the what you were saying too, I had another thing in my mind too, but there's also, where was your starting point the first time you touched or used
Yep.
whatever. So if your starting point was lower and you had adequate response, you got up to normal, you had a bigger change than the second time where maybe you had maintained some of it. You used lifestyle factors to keep it, relatively in check, and then you reapplied it and you didn't have as big of a feeling or a response as you did the first time.
Yep.
There is there's a human flaw and there's a human condition to everything that we do. And when you and I, and not that we're not doctors and we're not supposed to be giving advice, but when we try to help people navigate these things, We have to take that into consideration, and it gets increasingly more difficult, especially when we're on live and we don't know the psychology of this person. Like if I have a
Hmm.
client that I've had that I've worked with for a year, I've learned the psychology of that client, and so I know exactly how their brain operates, and I know all the variables that are at play. Whereas trying to give someone general advice on a live, I don't know who you are. I don't know any of your previous experience. I don't know what all is going on in your life right now. I also don't even know what all you're putting into your body. I'm trying to give you the best help that I can with very, very little information.
Yeah.
So for you to come back in 3 weeks and be like, I tried that, it didn't work. I don't, I can't fix all your problems unless I know all your problems and I know everything about you. It just gets very difficult to try to
Yeah.
manage all that for them.
It's funny that you said that too, because the psychological evaluation was a section that I just got to in J3U. But he even says like with food, I mean, you can't like I could not accept you as a client and try to coach you and say, all right, send me a picture of your body, uh, send me your stats, whatever, and then be like, all right, here's your plan.
Yeah.
Because I might tell you that you need to eat, let's just say 2,000 calories a day to bulk. And the last time you bulked, you only gained, a quarter, a half a pound a week, and you were doing 4,000 calories a day. So you
Yep.
do have, there's so much of a factor of like, what else is going on in your life? What else have you done? What else have you tried? There's a way bigger picture to it all than just like this and that.
Yeah. And the most minimal changes that you can make is usually the best for a client anyway. So in when I do an intake form with somebody, I tell them ahead of time if they've reached out to me beforehand. And I say, when you fill out the intake form, because I've had people put it, I eat clean, I take TRT, I work out 4 days, like you've told me nothing. So
Yeah.
the more I said, the more information you can give me, the better, because otherwise I'm going to have to just DM you about 50 questions to figure out what's going on. So give me paragraphs of information. Tell me exactly what you eat, how you've been eating. Send me sets of labs that you have for the last 2 to 3 if you have them. So I can make like an informed decision. Tell me everything that you're on now. Tell me everything that you've struggled with. So I can make an informed decision on how to set this plan up. And then we can alleviate any of the stress involved with making the changes or the adjustment to this new lifestyle that you're fixing to go. And I don't want to change somebody's plan dramatically either. So if you don't tell me what foods you eat, and then I make a plan that I put in an hour into, and you come back and say, I don't like this, and this food, shit, I got to go put in another hour of
You,
work.
you gave me
So,
fish, broccoli, and brown rice, and those are
yeah,
my least favorite foods ever. Thanks,
yep,
dude.
yep,
Um, yeah, no, that's a good point too. It's yeah, there's so much more to it. And, even like from the standpoint of giving as much as possible, you could be on 100 or 80 milligrams of TRT every 2 weeks. And every time you get tested, you're at 500, but your doctor is like, yep, you got back up higher into the normal range. And so you're still not optimized
yep.
by
And
most standards.
well, I have the same situation when people said that I feel good when I just do 2 shots a week of my TRT instead of daily. And I try to explain to them the dose curves. And that was the other thing I was going to say earlier was dose response curves. So you said a lot of, especially with GLP-1s, you see a lot of your progress in the first half, probably even the first 30% of the therapy, and then things slow down. Well, your body, one, naturally adjusts to most things that you do to it. But also, two, a lot of things have a dose response curve. So even in some cases, like with Retta, it seems like results are minimal until you get to a certain number, and then results take off. And then at this number, which is what, 8 milligrams, they start to taper back down. So there is a dose response curve. And if you quit here because you're not seeing everything you want to see, you haven't got it to the rocket launch part where you're actually
Hmm.
changing dramatically. So there's both sides of it. Either people saying it doesn't work at all, or it works amazing and it really didn't do much for them. So I get
Yeah.
it.
What that another thing too that makes me think about because you said it is like your first time ever using like testosterone. Did you feel amazing and like you could sleep for an hour, but you'd have energy the next day? Like
Yeah.
all that, right? That's what people report, right? Or they start TRT and or HRT, and 6 months later they're like, I feel so much energy, I feel great. And that piece, that's a huge piece, the adaptation piece of it. It's not that maybe it stops working in your system, but like let's say that you uh thinking about Brian Johnson right now, dude. That dude, I watched his documentary and him doing his sleep stuff. It was so funny to watch because he has like a full on like I don't know how you sleep because it's like super sciencey. But if you get a chili pad and you use a CPAP and you use DSIP and you use growth hormone, some capacity of a secretagogue or whatever, and you do epitalin, well, now your new normal for sleep is really good sleep. At some point, though, your body's just going to get used to that. Your
Yeah.
body's going to get used to your hormone levels, new hormone levels, and you're going to be like, I'm tired, but my hormones are still optimized.
Yeah.
Well, your body's just used to how that was, and now you can still feel tired again, or you can feel hungry again, or whatever it is.
It happens a lot too when I get people, especially those who are going from what I would call TRT to like TRT plus. They want to be a little bit more enhanced than just their basic 140 milligrams a week. So they will always report they feel amazing, and then never fails. 6 weeks into it, maybe they're like, "I'm tired all the time. What's the deal? What can I take? I'm constantly tired." I'm like, "Well, you have to realize going outside of the your normal physiological range of things is taxing other parts of your body. You're training
Yep.
harder because you have the extra hormones and aggression to do so. So now you're driving CNS stimulation. Now you're driving your adrenal glands to be pushed a little bit harder. So you're creating a different environment. You can't just run great all the time. I wish we could, but that's just not realistic. So eventually, just like with anything, you get up, it's great, it's great, it's great. And then at the same thing, you're doing everything exactly the same, it starts to go to shit. You just can't sustain it. So we have to know how to adjust and accommodate the situation at hand. But that does lead us to what I really want to talk about today, which is like the psychology and playing on that and some of our nootropic products that, I mean, I feel like there's a new one every day. I hear another abbreviation every single day, and I'm like, what is that one? Now I got to go look up GB something 586 or
115 and
whatever. Like this,
yeah.
yeah. So, I know you're a big fan of cerebral lysin. I haven't used it at yet either, and I'm trying to work through them one by one. So my experience is really limited to what was the first one I used?
Simex?
No, I started one before that. Noopept, Samax, PE 2228, Dihexa. You could consider DSIP one. But I think that's all I've used so far when it comes to nootropics. And I haven't done Solank just because I'm already super chill, almost too chill. But it's one that people have a lot of great results with. So what is your personal experience and what would you kind of, you can give me a quick ranking if you want to, what you would consider your favorite product?
Yeah. So I've used, well, put creatine in the list. Creatine
Yeah.
always should be in the stack. But I've used Simax, Solank, P2228, Neopept, Mimoprove, which is like the pill version of cerebrolysine, basically.
Mhm.
Um, which also, and I've used the GB 115. I've used Fladrenafil. I've used this stuff called KW 6356. Hang on though,
How do you
dude.
remember that?
I always type it in wrong, actually. I
Oh,
never do. There's too many numbers, and sometimes I get them all mixed up and I'm typing one thing and saying the other. But I've tried all of those. I will say probably like some of my favorites. And it might not be a favorite in terms of like how effective it is, but convenience, minimal side effects that could be associated with it. Like Semax is good, Slank is good. I think those are very easy ones to start with. Oh, and you have P21,
yep.
which could help towards like Alzheimer's prevention and even like repairing some of those issues. But I will say that a lot of them generally, I don't want to say somewhat similarly, but somewhat
Yep.
work similarly enough, right? And so, but they might have a little bit of different mechanism of action, or how much or how significant they change, you know, X or Y in the brain. So I'd probably put Simax and Slink up there for me personally. Um, I really liked Mimoprove. I was shocked at Mimoprove, but I felt like within 2 or 3 days of being on that, I felt, and other people have had that experience too. People don't use Mimoprove as much because it is like $135 for a box, which is 30 days worth. But like better mental clarity, just general better cognitive function, and methylene blue. Actually,
Mhm.
getting it from Algo, I felt that. I felt like
Yep.
lighter. My head felt lighter, is how I describe it, I guess. And I never felt it from like the Amazon ones. But I had a lady who used methylene blue, got it from Algo, said she got nothing, but used cerebrolizin and said that has done more for me than any other cognitive compound out there. Right. And so that's where like the individual response varies. I saw a guy on a Reddit thread, dude. This dude had like 650 vials of empty cerebrolizin. He was just using like milliliters and milliliters and milliliters every single day for like years. And he had a picture of his like bin of them. I guess he was keeping them like people keep their liquor bottles. And other people were like, I got nothing from it. Right. And so that's something to consider. But the KW 6356, I'm just going to throw off.
KW
It's
what?
like 6356, basically like 100 times stronger than caffeine, but doesn't give you like jitters and crazy feelings. Dude, you take that, and people will tell you to take that like early in the day. So I'll take it at like 5 a.m. I literally laid in bed one night and I was like, I don't feel tired. If I take it and I wake up tired, I take it. I don't feel tired the whole day. It's crazy. Don't ask me how it works because my buddy told me about it. And so I tried it. I need to look into it more, but there's a lot of those like weird ones, like the GB115, the KW6356. You can't find those anywhere. Like there's not, they're
There's
not.
also ACD 856 or
Yep.
756.
The ACD. Yep.
Yeah, I've been asked about that a couple of times as well.
And a lot of those things, because they're so inaccessible, like there's really not a lot out there on them. But there's a website. I just don't want to say it in case it's like a weird website, but I ordered from there, but I'm hesitant for that people get scammed. ORG 43902. You got the ATX 304, the ACD 856. You got the Bromantane, of course, is another one. Tox 653, which is supposed to be like crazy for like anti-anxiety benefits. ABT 089 HCl, Tropicetrin HCl. Like, dude, the list of cognitive things that exist out there is just, it's too much to even keep up with. And I got a buddy who's like really, really into the nootropics. His name's Julian. I don't know if you've ever seen him pop up on TikTok, but that's like all this dude studies and talks about. And he says that, and actually I've seen quite a few guys say this. I don't know if it was Julian that said this. Cerebrolizin and PE22-28 are two of the only things that fixed neurological issues that they had after using things like Trembolone.
Yeah.
And so like, especially,
it's funny that you say that because I'm on trend right now. I just put it in maybe 5 days ago, and I'm doing the PE 22-28. Now, I'm a big believer in keeping doses lower and not pressing numbers until you to reach side effects. That's usually where people, especially with trend, they say, I don't feel it at 70, so I went up to 300. Well, yeah, that's beside the point. That's exactly what you're trying to avoid. But I am running those at the same time. You can continue, but I was going to talk for a second about your experience with cerebrolizin because you are big on that. Now, I've had 5 concussions, all before the age of 19, and that's just one I haven't used yet. I mean, not for any specific reason other than it's an injection, correct?
yes.
Yeah. So that's the only reason I haven't yet is because I already do a shit ton of injections.
Yeah. And I haven't used cerebrolizin because of the volume. And I've just never like worked it in because I was trying other things that were easier. And so I'm like, well, if I got to break an ampule, I got to filter it. I got to do 5 milliliters a day. I'm just going to use the memo proof first, see how that is. And so I've been kind of like lazy on it.
Yeah.
But I know somebody whose mom has dementia. She took cerebrolizin. Day 1, she said it felt like her mind was unlocked for the first time, like in a long time that she felt that type of thing. And just, I mean, if you search like cerebrolizin PubMed, you'll find like 250 links. There's a lot of data out there supporting cerebrolizin in some capacity, whether it's animals or whether it's whatever capacity, but it is a very, very studied compound. And I think another thing that's interesting to look at is some of the compounds that are approved in other countries.
Yeah.
Too, right? Like there's certain things that'll be used in other countries, but not used in the United States. But a lot of the cognitive stuff too, like if you look at most of the cognitive compounds, where are they coming from? Usually Russia. Russia's the one that's like, hey, we just want our people, like modafinil, I think, was originally used in the Soviet.
Yeah.
Or
I was gonna get into that. Yeah, because
yeah,
that's I was the drugs part was the next thing I was gonna get into. But fuck, we can segue to that right now.
yeah,
And modafinil is the one that kind of like you were saying for that lady that said cerebral and kind of opened her brain up. That's exactly my response to modafinil, and I've taken a break from it because you probably should. But it was the one thing that I was like, I am alert all day. I process really, really good. I have ideas flowing constantly, and I miss it. I haven't had a peptide do quite the same thing yet. I like Semax a lot, but I haven't had anything do quite that. Obviously, it's a medication, so it's a little bit different. But
yeah.
go ahead with what you were saying.
No, but I think that like just having like that, and that's where it gets difficult too when you think about like some of these nootropic compounds and just the development of it. I mean, it's the stereotype, honestly. Every movie you ever watch, Rocky, what are they doing? They're injecting bro with some
Yeah,
whatever it is, steroids or something, right? Maybe it was cerebrolysine. But like the willingness to develop things just to enhance human performance. And so that's where like a lot of these things now, I also think that in some capacity, messing with your brain too much, using too many compounds, using them too frequently can create issues, right? Serotonin syndrome, like methylene blue, you can't take that with like 150, actually 198 different compounds.
yeah,
There's some type of interaction, most of them being serotonin syndrome. And so, like, taking that into consideration when you are messing with the brain, not doing too much. And because I've seen people on like Reddit threads, dude, they're taking like 6 different things at once. And they're like,
yeah.
so they're
And
taking like, go ahead.
that's overkill because, like you said, you look at the benefits. A lot of them have the same benefits. You're just trying to figure out which one you respond the best to.
Exactly. And that was one person. They're like, yeah, P2228 worked for me for like 2 weeks. Then it stopped. So then I added in, you know, the Tox 653, and then I added in GB 150. And I'm like, dude, and some of these people too kind of almost say that they mess themselves up a little bit with different things over time too. But like you are creating issues for you that you're now trying to find other things to treat
Yeah,
because you're just going over the top. And I say the same thing with modulators too. Like if you wanted a good immune stack, you don't want to use thymosin alpha 1, KPV, glutathione, LL37, like, and just throw the entire thing. Now,
yeah, the kitchen sink.
glutathione and thymosin alpha 1 could be okay,
Yeah,
right? But like, let one or two things work. Give it some time. Let your body respond. Same thing with the cognitive peptides. I mean, I've seen people say, like, Semax, typically, same day, like we said, you'll respond to it. But there are people that take Semax daily and then they start to feel it after 1 or so weeks, like it builds up in their system a little bit more effectively.
so
So
I had a guy on my live this morning, Stu. He's a regular. He might be on yours too.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Muscular guy in his picture.
I didn't look at his picture, but he's always there.
Yeah, yeah,
He's his questions are great. Like I like having people like that that contribute like well to the conversation and give you more things to talk about. But he's on anxiety medications, and he's just recently started using Selenic. And so what we kind of talked about was, and he's doing the injectable, so that way he has like a more sustainable release. Um, but doing something like that, and if you're going to go this route to try to get yourself off of a SNRI or SSRI, that you implement something, one thing at a time at a low dose. And if you get a boost from that, then you try to bring the medication down slowly until you find an equal place where you're able to take the least amount of medication or none if possible, um, and swap it out for this product. Now, he might run into a situation like anyone else where maybe the product stops having the same efficacious result that the medication would. And again, we need to be treating ourselves properly, so you can't just go without if that's something you truly need. But it is a useful tool to at least run alongside of a medication and be able to use a lower dose, just like anything else, just like blood pressure medications. If
yeah,
you can if you can take 600 milligrams of magnesium glycinate and reduce your blood pressure medication in half, that's what you should do. You know,
yeah. I want to read this real quick because a guy messaged me this the other day, just for people to understand like how legit they can potentially be. You may not respond to them, but how legit they can. So this person, I'm not getting all the details. Basically, something happened to them. They had complex PTSD. Basically, couldn't do anything after that. We had to stay medicated all the time. Basically, they said that the medication stole all their interest, personality, and everything. Heard me talking about Slank and Semax, talked to their doctor, which is also really cool that their doctor was like on board with it, and decided they would try those. And then literally the next thing is wow, exclamation mark. Long story short, it worked, and I was able to gradually come off the meds and only using the Peps. Today has marked 2 months of not being on a prescription. I feel like the old me. And then dude, this is, and real quick too, this is like why I do this and why I love doing this. And this person, they're in my school, but like they just caught me on like live, right?
Yeah.
And they said, seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I'm not getting choked up. You've given me back the life I had prior to May 2019. The first message I had like that was from a dad that started maybe like Reddit was an alcoholic, 3 kids, stopped drinking, spends more time. He's like, and that dude, but
Yeah.
anyways, you can see how effective something is by people's testimonials like that. And in that case, it's hard to argue when we talk about the data. Maybe some access link doesn't have a lot, but that person's experience, it worked for them. And
Well,
so I'm not going to be one to tell
that's
you no, that it doesn't.
that's worth something, and you can't tell that person ever again that that product has not enough research on it, not enough proof in it, because they're going to tell you, "Well, I lived it."
Yes, it
And
does. Yeah.
so that's enough for me. And
Yeah.
me and you are the same exact way. We're gonna go try something before we truly have an opinion about it. I can try to recite you the information that's available, but if I haven't used it, I can't vouch for it the same, you know? And that's where you have to kind of get your hands dirty. And a lot of people out there are not willing to do that, especially if something poses a potential risk. And that's where me and you are still going to be on, if the data is unclear or the research is very muddy, the study wasn't conducted properly, and it's got a bunch
Yeah.
of flaws in it, we're still likely to go try. We're still likely to go
Yeah.
give it a run and tell you what we think. Now, if there's hard evidence that this product is going to cause this problem, we're probably going to stay away from it. And that transfers over into bodybuilding. I know that nandrolone's going to do a certain thing, and that is pretty consistent across the board for every user. So I'm not going to recommend it, and I'm not going to put myself on it. Now, if I have to, in specific scenarios, let's say men over 50, I'm only going to apply or recommend a dose that would provide the benefit. That's the same thing a doctor would do with DECA. It's always combined with their TRT at an older age to give some synovial fluid. But there is a threshold to where now you're getting into neurocognitive, decline. So I'm not interested in it. But me and you are going to be open minded. We're going to use things, especially if the research has a ton of holes in it. We're going to be like, okay, well, I guess we have to go figure it out for ourselves.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important thing to look at too is, do the potential risks outweigh the benefits? And if they do or do not, I mean, for somebody like, for example, and the nice thing about a lot of peptides is in terms of the actual risk profile of them, very, 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 very minimal, right? You could say that something might be too much or not good because like, FOXO4 DRI, maybe we get rid of too many senescent cells,
Yeah.
but you don't have a measurable data to tell you how much it gets rid of in humans or whatever, right? But like maybe it could. However, if it fixes issues for it, is the risk, or if it fixes issues that you have, is the risk of trying it enough to outweigh, or is the benefits of trying enough to outweigh the risks, right? And so like for even something like nandrolone, if you know these are the benefits, and like you said, joint pain, right? From giving you some of that fluid, right? So maybe you have debilitating joint pain, and it's worth it for you to sacrifice a little bit of your cognitive health to have no debilitating pain every second of your day.
Well, if the alternative is being in too much pain to go train, and then that has a negative impact on your mental health, then that's worth the trade-off. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
To some people, to a lot of people, the gym is therapy. If you can't have therapy, the rest of your life slides downhill. You might as well take the nandrolone,
yeah, yeah,
So, and that's most of what I had. And the drug thing, that's a whole different world because obviously it's more of a slippery slope when it comes to maybe developing like addiction to it, relying on it too much. But just like with anything else, for anyone that's watching this, implement one thing at a time. And this goes for anything that you do. This could be all the way down to um, a change in your training plan, a change in your daily habits, even weight loss clients. Instead of trying to go from terrible decisions and no activity to 6 workouts a week and eating perfectly clean, you're going to have burnout, and you're also not going to know what really is doing what for you. So, err on the side of caution, use one thing at a time. If it's got limited research on it, at least keep the term that you use it to relatively short term. And, we can't say without a doubt that people are going to be void of all potential sides. Melanotan 2 is another product that I would say is very conflicting for a lot of people, or confusing for a lot of people. Because let's say that you're not just using it for uh, skin, right? Melanin, but you're using it for libido because it has phenomenal libido effects. And let's say that you've tried other things and you're like, okay, shoot, let's just try melanotan 2 and see what happens. And it fixes that for you. But now you're paranoid about sun exposure because the information is a little bit conflicting, a little bit weird. If that's worth that benefit for you, then just continue to do all the right things. Like we've talked about, cancer before. Reduce inflammation, eat clean, live a healthy lifestyle. Maybe don't use creams on your skin and cook in a tanning bed. But if it's worth it to you, then use the damn product.
Yeah.
And
And
just
I
be
always tell
smart.
people
Go ahead.
it's cosmetic, like not necessarily melanotan 2, melanotan 1 more so.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're willing, let's just say that in some situation you get skin cancer from melanotan. Is it worth it to you to be tan? And there are people 100, I mean,
Yeah.
people will, right? But like that's what you're weighing. And like there's things where the benefit of it is so minimal that if there was any like tanning, I mean, who cares if I'm pasty white year round? Okay, I just will look less tan. Okay, I'll live with that. Um, but like that's a really good example of one where is the potential risk, if
Yeah.
there is any, outweighing the benefit of that. For me, for something cosmetic,
No,
no.
usually
But I
no.
mean, what are like weight loss, skin removal surgeries, right? I mean, there could be issues with having a lot of skin, or getting, you get to be a little bit older and getting like liposuction and a tummy tuck and all these things. Those could, I mean, any surgery, technically, anytime you go under anesthesia, anytime that you get cut open, you have a significant risk. Well, maybe not significant, but you
There's
could
a degree.
have something, right? You could die on the operating table. You could have a missed dose of anesthesia. You got to weigh that in everything you do in your life.
That's a big thing that stops people from the weight loss products is all the potential side effects, whether that be the gastric paresis or muscle loss or this or that, or whatever. And you have to ask yourself, especially if your situation is bad enough,
Right.
am I healthy now? And if that answer is no, the blood work says otherwise, my blood pressure says otherwise, um, me looking in the mirror and the effects it has on my brain, my mentally, my confidence says otherwise, then that's worth giving that thing a shot and taking a small, whatever percentage risk to have a potential good outcome, because the situation you're currently in, we know 100% is not a good position to be in.
Yeah.
So you're weighing, 10 to 20% of whatever potential risk versus 100% outcome for what you're currently doing. So you take the risk,
Yeah.
and it could absolutely change your life. And just like people have told us, always tell us, it's absolutely changed their life. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's pretty much all I have today. I wanted to really dig into the nootropic stuff and not keep you too long. But I think we're at 43 minutes. That's
Yeah.
about right. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we could probably talk for 2 hours, but I don't know that anybody would want to listen to that much at one time. So
Yeah.
I'll let you get out of here,
Catch
man.
us on our lives tomorrow for the next hour.
Yeah, dude. Oh, and by the way, I missed the last two days of lives, mornings. That's what people are used to seeing me as in the morning. And I got probably 8 or 9 messages today. Where you been? Are you okay? Like, I'm missing
Yeah.
your lives. I'm at work and you're not on live. I don't know what to do. And I only have like maybe half of what you have in yours, but you don't realize the impact that it has on people's day. You don't
Yeah.
realize that you become a part of their, like you're a part of my morning now. Up in you have been, I guess, for the last probably month or so, where my routine is do my cardio, come in to get my breakfast, and I open TikTok and I go listen to Hacky.
Click in and listen. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's crazy how much of an impact we have on people's lives. But keep doing what you're
Yeah.
doing, and I'll keep doing my thing, and people
Sir.
really enjoy us together too. So that's cool.
Sweet.
All right, man.
Love it.
Well,
All
I'll
right, man.
talk to
We'll
you
see
later.
you.
Have a good one.
All
Bye.
right.